Attention, this podcast is as delicate as a bull in a china shop. Listener discretion is advised. Your episode starts in 3, 2, 1. Ooh.
Do you like it?
Ooh.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm. But
Does it hurt, baby girl?
You know what it tastes like?
Mm.
It tastes like the popsicles that look this color.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
It tastes exactly like an icy.
Yeah. Or, you know, at the ice cream truck at the beach, the like different colored ones.
The red,
That's
white, and
red,
blue.
blue. When you get to the blue, it
This
tastes
is
like
the
the
blue one. Holy shit.
Ooh.
So
that
they're
is dope.
prepping kids
Yeah.
for
Wow.
when they get older.
You know, you could just pour this into a little mold and pretend you got yourself one of those little kitty popsicles, but really you getting, oh, it's never going to freeze because it's all booze. Never mind. Yep.
It's okay.
Oh, anyways, well, that's interesting.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Lusty Library podcast. Of course, where we are currently drinking all the cocktails and we're getting ready to talk about the cocktails. I'm this episode's host, Joey. And if this is your first time joining us because you are a very special person and decided to listen to the most current episode first, a little bit about what we do here. Each episode, the dames and I choose a romance novel that none of us have read. We pretty much scream and yell at each other about it because, of course, we're doing so all while drinking cocktails.
I mean, to be fair, we yell and scream at each other about things we're passionate about, whether or not cocktails are involved.
But the cocktails do amplify the energy in our conversation.
They also amplify the hand gestures.
Yes.
In the room with me today, to my right, currently wearing a tiara and a studded cocktail dress, is Miss Lex.
'Cause I got a sparkle.
Absolutely. And to my left, wearing a string of pearls and a mechanic's jumpsuit, is the legendary Birdie.
Oh my God. Obsessed.
So you're probably wondering about what book we are about to partake in today. Well, this episode, we're going to be discussing Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. If you've never dipped your toes into the dark romance pool, let me read you the summary from Amazon.com. Who am I? I've forgotten to answer the question long ago. Ever since I ran from that house, so desperate to escape, I left with only the clothes on my back and the socks on my feet. After that day, I've only ever walked in stolen shoes. Could I be a girl who is searching for the meaning of life in faceless men? They were so forgettable. Until he came along. He took me under a waterfall and made me forget my name, and in return, I took his instead. Enzo Vitali, an enigmatic man who will only ever love the deep sea, or rather the predators that inhabit it. Turns out, he's not so different than the monsters he feeds. He lured me onto his boat like a fish in the ocean, seeking vengeance for my crime. Had I realized his intentions and that a massive storm would leave us shipwrecked, I would have run. Now I'm a girl who's seeking refuge in a decrepit lighthouse with a man who loathes me almost as much as he craves me. He wants to hurt me, but the old caretaker of the abandoned island may have intentions far more sinister. It's no longer a question of who I am, but rather, will I survive?
God, that trailer gave away way too fucking much.
I know. And this is what drew me to the book. So I have read H.D. Carlton before, and H.D. can be dark.
Okay. And you love dark, right?
I love dark.
Okay.
I love dark.
But she's real dark.
Yeah,
Like,
she's pretty.
So we do our little disclaimer at the beginning. It's kind of funny. It's kind of cute. You might not know what you're in for. I think this is a good time to go. There's real trigger warnings here, folks.
Yeah.
This is dark.
Yeah, no, we did a cute little disclaimer.
Yeah.
No, this
Yeah.
is the real one. This is some serious trigger warning shit here. Do we want to list off a couple of the things?
There's abuse in this one. There's talk of past childhood abuse. It gets real detailed.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you are triggered by, please, we've got
Yeah.
plenty of fun things out there. Join us for those. And thanks for stopping by.
Yes.
For the rest of the folks.
If you're ready to dive on in, make yourself a cocktail. Today's cocktail, in honor of the MMC's one true passion in life, today we're drinking shark bites.
Sorry, I was really excited for you to say, and today we're drinking pussy juice.
He does plenty of that.
I thought that was his one passion.
Yeah.
But I could not find that at the liquor store down aisle B.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't decide to make it from scratch. Gross. Okay, carrying onward.
So-
We gave the warning,
Yep.
so here we are.
So if you want to actually have a real cocktail with booze, which you may need to get through the episode, please make sure you visit us at the Lusty Library Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, or our website, thelustylibrarypodcast.com. All right, so we've given a warning. Are we ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
So this book opens up with our FMC Sawyer. She's on the run.
Mhm.
She is running. We have no clue from what, but the girl is running.
She has left the country. She's from the States, and she is hopped on a plane. She was getting ready to go to one country, ran into somebody at the airport that might recognize her, randomly was like, what's the first flight out? And to Australia she goes.
I mean, literally, her mother's cousin's husband's niece scared the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And she left that,
Yeah.
particular gate that she was sitting at to go to Indonesia.
I mean, fair enough, though.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Am I the only person that was surprised when we do discover why she's running? Did you both already guess why she was running?
I mean, they don't give it out in that first chapter, but
No, that's what I'm saying. We have
very-
almost the whole book until we find out why she's running. But
Oh,
had
yeah.
you already figured it out?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't figured it out. I was pumped.
I think maybe like third of the way through.
Okay.
Once we found out that she was running from her brother, I put
Okay.
the pieces together. Like,
Mhm.
you know how your brain just goes like 4 more steps with that little bit of information? That's me.
Right.
That's what happens
Yep.
when you watch these true crime documentaries and podcasts and listen to all this stuff. You start to be like, oh, you just gave me a nugget of information. I'm going to run with it. And I'm
Yeah.
going to run real far. And I ran. And luckily, I ran to the finish line.
I
And-
feel like such a naive little lady.
Well, you did what the author wanted.
Yeah, it's true.
Like we've talked about this, I read a lot of murder mystery outside of this too. So same thing, I'm kind of always looking for clues. I can't shut my brain off.
And also because I didn't read the summary, I was just truly shocked at every twist and turn. It was
Yeah.
just lovely. I was like on the boat with them going over the waves going,
Mhm.
here we go. Wow, what's over the edge? Holy shit. There's fucking shipwrecks. There's fucking ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which turns out there's not ghosts. So this book is actually set in reality. For a minute, I was like, oh my God, is this going down a paranormal road now? Holy shit, what is this book?
Like I totally had the movie trailer in my head that this
Yeah.
would be put out at Halloween and it would be a slasher ghost thing. And the trailer would make you lead to believe that it's ghosts doing all this.
Right.
And then you'd watch the movie and the twist would come and you'd be like, it
Yeah.
wasn't ghosts. It was this. Yay.
So let's talk a little bit about Sawyer. We learn she's on the run. She
Mhm.
lands in Australia and she just is so reckless in everything that she is doing.
The worst thing she does is she drinks and she smokes, but
Yeah.
she also seduces men, lots of them, and steals their identity.
Yep. So that she can continue to live. And you can tell she feels bad.
That's a huge element, the guilt for her. That's why I started liking hers, because at first I'm like, okay, she's a fugitive on the run. Will
Mhm.
I be able to identify with her? I don't know. And then she says she starts to feel guilty. And I'm like, okay, all right. we're layering in the I understand you layers. And she's also funny.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where she got the same tattoo as the guy sitting next to her on a bus stop. He gives her the tattoo by hand while they're sitting on a fucking bus stop. That was when my eyes turned into little hearts and I fell in love with her. A giant fuck you on her thigh.
Yep.
Love it.
But actually, that was a great scene for me because she connected with Simon, this random guy she meets at a bus stop. And it's kind of like they were fated to meet each other. And he seems like he's had a rough time at life, too. And they just connected. In the hour that they sat there together, she actually considered him a friend from that.
Mm-hmm.
So that just kind of tells you about what she's missing in her life being on the run. So Sawyer's been in Port Vallon, Australia for 3 weeks. It is a beautiful beach town in Australia. I mean, talk about a place to make a run for it and get stranded. Except for when she goes to the corner store and buys a pack of cigarettes and a pregnancy test for $65 damn dollars.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about inflation beach prices. I mean, that's out of control.
To be honest with you, when Simon at the bus stop asks for payment for the tattoo in the pack of cigarettes, I was like, oh, that's a pricey tattoo.
Yeah, because it's probably $28 for the pack of cigarettes.
Right? Or more. I was like, that shitty little fuck you is going to actually cost you a fair amount of money. Like, really, Simon?
Yeah. But it's time for her to get a treat, and she decides to go to this bar and get herself one drink.
Yeah.
That bartender was really funny because he wanted nothing to do with her.
Oh, he knew trouble when he saw it.
Oh, yeah. He's like, you are a cornered animal.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thread in the book that people just noticed that she was in fight or flight and that there was something going on with her.
I have a question.
Okay.
So in that scene, she meets Enzo for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And she says something. And I would like to know, does she, in your opinion, say it out loud or in her head? Where apparently she turns around and looks at him and he's super hot and she goes, nope, I could get pregnant just from looking at you.
No, she said it right to his face.
Yeah,
said it right
she
to his
said it
face.
out
Said it right
loud.
to his face.
See, that's insane.
And I was laughing my ass off because she became my spirit romance book character.
Yeah.
Okay, because that is the shit I would have said.
Yeah.
Then she internally said to herself, you could ruin me with just the tip. She does end up telling him that straight out later on in the book. But I was like, oh, I know. Have a full picture of what Enzo would be like when you say something like, you could just ruin me with the tip.
Yeah.
So she meets Enzo. Big, brooding, short dark hair, broad shoulders, muscled, tan, sex on a stick. What did you think about their interaction when they were introduced to each other?
I was laughing because you know my love for Grumpy Sunshine. He is super, super grumpy. And he never is not grumpy, even when he, quote unquote, warms up later. I don't think broody is strong enough word.
No.
Grumpiest fucker.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if I ever really ended up liking him because he's just so damn grumpy. Stop with the grumps.
You know what? I don't think it's the grumpy that made me not sure if I could ever warm up to him. But we can talk about that later.
Yes.
And here's the worst part. Sawyer knows I should stay away from this man. She says after she meets him, he's exactly the type of guy that I should stay away from. I prefer to go with men who are dressed in suits and ties and wear mortgages on their wrists. The type that is so overworked and stressed they pass out after 15 seconds of, well, whatever they consider sex. This man next to me, I'd have to work hard to tire him out. And by the time I accomplished that, then I'd be too fucking tired to do anything else. He's dangerous. I lean into him, nearly pressing my nose to his muscular bicep and inhale deeply, rolling my eyes to the back of my head. You smell good too, I groan. Get away.
I cannot believe she just goes in and sniffs him.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that then he calls her on it.
Yeah.
He's like, did you just sniff me?
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, thank God. I'm glad that we're not like living in a world where that's just normal.
No. That's why I liked the interaction.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
The two of them have intense chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you feel that reading through the passages?
It's funny because I'm the person who believes in the lightning bolt. And at the same time, I was like, these are just two desperate fucking souls together.
Ooh.
I felt the sexual lightning bolt.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the romantic lightning bolt until almost the end of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even so, I just still didn't love the way he spoke to her ever.
Yeah.
Even after there was a very nice moment towards the end where he says, I forgive you, you know. And from that moment, I was like, oh, okay. Now they've actually said the words out loud. Now will he be okay in my mind? Maybe.
I don't think you're ever going to get soft from him. Soft from him is a level down from constantly being grumpy. It's never going to be mush and gush from him.
No.
I don't want mush and gush from him. I want him to just be a little bit less murdery.
No.
It's never
I
gonna happen.
don't think that's ever going to happen with
No.
him.
I dislike.
No. They're drinking at the bar together, right? So he says, why don't we get out of here? I don't want to spend my whole day here. And where does he take her?
The waterfall.
A waterfall.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was great. And we have water sex.
Were they in the water, though? I feel like they were outside of the water. They were on a rock.
They were
weren't
on a rock.
underwater.
Okay.
So that's why I was okay with it.
You knew what my next question was.
Yeah.
So near the water is okay as long as it's not in the water.
I
As
mean,
long
do
as
I
it can't be pumped into you.
Exactly.
That's your line.
Gross.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So what I found crazy is things move pretty fast when they get to the waterfall. And he gives her great oral. And I gotta tell you, hold on, let me pull up my sex checklist here for all the smut I have.
Yeah.
I think I have a first time. Out of 835 books that I currently have logged into Goodreads, this is my first evident squirter.
Squirter. And not
Yeah.
just once.
Like every time,
Every
basically.
time.
Because once he finds out that she's like a
Yep.
waterfall, it was just the writing though of this kind of killed me when he's like, I tell myself I'm so fucking addicted to you because of how sweet your pussy tastes and how it cries so easily for me. But I know it's just because of you. That's just one of the lines that I wrote down. That was a funny statement. It was an interesting way of describing it, which kind of made me chuckle. But yeah, first squirter. Gosh, I'm so lucky. What is this, my 7th book ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My checklist is just getting checked off.
Listen, I have read books where it alludes to it. Ooh, I feel pressure down there. I feel like this is the first time I have read the words squirt multiple times in a romance novel.
So, you know what I think is really rude about the science world is that science doesn't have definitive answers on what squirting is and how it works.
Yeah.
That I find to be incredibly rude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where there's like, oh, there's a separate gland and that's where it comes from, but scientists don't know much about it. But then it's like, oh, no, you're just peeing. Like, I hate that science is not real about it.
That science is male-based and they just don't take the
It's
time.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty cool. It happens. I love the fact that it was outlined in this book and those words were used because it is a thing that people can do and happens.
Oh, it's a whole kink.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a whole section back when there used to be porn stores that you went to get the videos.
Yeah.
Whole
Yeah.
section.
I mean, wasn't she basically just like, I'm sorry, did you just make me squirt?
Yes.
Yeah, she was
She had
embarrassed.
to like ask about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, fuck yeah.
And I'm going to do again.
Yeah.
And again.
Uh-huh.
And again.
So we did not need to wait
No.
to have sex in this book.
No.
No, we did not.
The marker was at 7%. We went fast. So you know what? We're going to go fast today. You know me, I'm
Oh.
usually a slow burn kind of girl.
Oh.
But I think our sexy stud needs to read us some of this smutty stuff that
Great.
happened at the 7% mark.
Oh, I can't fucking wait to see which section you chose.
Have a listen now.
Why did you get to be God's favorite? He stares down at me with a savage expression. You can ask him yourself when I take you to see him. I bite my lip, but a gasp breaks through when he grabs my hips, lifting them to the height of his own, and then lines his cock to my entrance with only my upper back on the bed. He keeps me there suspended, so close to feeling complete again. Let me take you to him, Bella. Fuck, yes, fill me up. He drives inside before I can finish, a sharp cry replacing my plea. He pauses, giving me time to adjust to his size. It's unnatural, the way he fills me so completely. Shh, the caretaker will hear you, he murmurs. On cue, there's a creak outside our door, racketing up my heart rate to catastrophic levels. I curl my lips together, attempting to keep quiet while Enzo withdraws, then slams inside me again. Enzo, let me touch you, I beg. Uncaring of his response, I grab onto his forearms before he can answer, feeling the thick, protruding veins threaded throughout them. He picks up a steady pace, his grip on my hips becoming bruising. My mouth opens on a silent scream, my back bowing until I'm practically balancing on my head as he fucks me. I'm clawing at his arms while the sharp sound of skin slapping arises. Oh God, I cry, trying to keep my voice down but failing miserably. Can you see him, baby? Ask him for forgiveness. Why? I pant, another high-pitched moan, nearly swallowing the word. Because you worship me now.
That was a great scene.
Excuse me for a moment. Can we turn the air conditioner up in here? It's
That was
starting
a-
to feel like it's a little warm.
Yeah, because that had your banter kink
You sure
as
did.
well as a pretty...
You and your
Holy
banter kink.
Fuck. Is that a thing?
It is now.
Damn, I'm going to have to add that to the list of available kinks to be used at any given point now.
Okay, I have to ask one thing about the writing of that, though.
Yeah.
When she talks about feeling the veins in his cock, is anybody's pussy that sensitive that they can braille read?
Oh, that's amazing. That's really good.
You
my God, I'm trying
occasionally
so hard. Holy fuck, Lex. You know, you just come out with these zingers sometimes that just make me fall off my chair.
That was fucking
I
funny.
can braille read. Jesus.
Oh my God. So, okay, I wasn't that funny when I thought about it in my head, but I was thinking the same thing because I don't actually ever love the description of a veiny cock. I'm like, ugh, that's gross. But then I started thinking, like condoms ribbed for her pleasure. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's for a reason. Yeah.
So there we go. His dick is naturally ribbed for her pleasure.
Sure.
It probably does feel great. I can't say I've ever fucked a guy that has that much veinage going on.
Right. Yeah. This is kind of where we have to have suspension of disbeliefs happen.
Or believe in magic. That's good.
We have been talking about suspension of disbelief probably for the past couple of episodes. And generally, I'm someone who maybe is blind to these things and just flow through the book and enjoy it. But now all of a sudden that you have brought it up, I am like, oh, I'm having one of those moments right now. And I'm starting to mark them. So they're out at this waterfall. There was no plan to have sex with each other. But
No.
you know what? Fuck it. You have this beautiful scenery. They're two hot people. And then he goes, fuck, I don't have a condom. And she's like, well, then why did you bring me here? He's like, looked like you needed, get out of your head a little bit. And he's like, I don't fuck without a condom. And 2 seconds later, he's like, all right, maybe just once.
Yeah.
I was like, "Sis, can you keep this rule?" And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, just one time we'll be fine.
Right? Like the
Yeah.
fact that he just believes this woman who clearly looks like a feral dog
Yes.
is
Uh-huh.
a lot. Because how does he know she's not one of those ladies that like pokes holes in condoms to get pregnant and lock a guy down?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sorry. There is no proof that someone is on birth control, right? You
Right.
just have someone's word. And here is this stranger that you just met at a bar. And she's like, oh, don't worry, I'm clean. I'm on birth control. Just take my word for it. Well, you know what? He shouldn't, because after a beautiful couple of squirts at the waterfall, they go back to his place and they fuck like animals all night long.
I hate those scenes.
Who the fuck has that stamina? Let's be real.
That's
Let's
the
be real.
suspension of disbelief
Yeah.
right there. I'm like, fucking no.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
It's fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yeah, this is the only paranormal element in this book.
Spoiler alert.
Right. Yeah.
So she's a bit torn, but she does what she always does after she spends a night with a man in his house. What does she do?
Starts going through his shit looking for documents that she can use to set up her ID.
Yeah. And she does. She takes a picture of his license. She breaks into his office.
Gets
His
his visa, right?
Italian citizenship card.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And
Meow.
gets all the information, finds out he is the owner of a company called VORS, and steals his identity and gets a credit card in his name.
Yeah, that fucking sucks. Yeah, but she feels bad. She does feel bad because she actually liked him. So
Yeah.
that sucks. And she's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to have to avoid seeing him ever again.
Yeah.
And he wakes up the next day and he immediately, his spidey senses go up. He knows something's wrong. She's gone. He knows she did something, but he can't figure it out right off the bat. I think a week later, he ends up getting his credit report and sees
Yeah.
a new credit card.
But he doesn't cancel it.
No, and he doesn't call the police. He doesn't do
He's
any of that.
looking for her.
He could have just canceled it though,
He could have.
too. But that would have alerted her that he knew.
Well, also, we wouldn't have a book.
Oh, God, Lex.
Sorry.
All right. So, yes.
But he's looking for her. On the second day of his search, here she comes walking across the beach.
Unbelievable.
Karma.
Yeah, and he doesn't tell her that he knows what she did.
This was so good.
Uh-huh.
And she's got the credit card with his name in her back pocket.
And he asks her to go with him
On the boat.
On
his boat.
Yeah, there is no fucking way
Correct.
you could pay me
Right.
when I'm in her shoes to get on a boat with the person whose identity you stole.
She's kind of leery about it, but then
She acted like she had no other option. She fucking could have just so easily been like, thanks so much, but I got a lunch date. She could have said literally anything.
How did he lure her to get on the boat? He said, if you come on the boat with me, I will kiss you.
But he also told her that the stakes were high, that he's never kissed anyone like
Right.
that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, but it's just like,
oh,
really?
she's still a dumb twat for doing it.
Oh,
God.
dumb twat. 100.
All the blood went from her brain into that pussy.
Yeah, it must have, because that was the only thing that was thinking of
It's
anything
ridiculous.
at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked by that scene. So this is somebody's yum. It is
Uh-huh.
very hard
Yeah.
for me right now. And I don't want to like offend anybody even by talking about this, because I actually know quite a few people very intimately who this
Yeah.
is their
Yeah.
yum.
Yeah.
I found it fun at first because they were fucking around, they're having fun. And then he was like, I'm going to chum the waters, and the sharks are coming around. And then he's like, I'm going to stick your head over the edge of the boat and fuck you and make you think that you're going to die and drown in the water, get eaten by a shark.
After he bites her lip and she is bleeding.
Bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's bleeding and he's about to stick her in the water with the sharks. It was fucked up.
Completely. And I agree with you. That is not my yum. Am I okay reading scenes like that? Yes, because I understand that does it for somebody.
Right.
In the middle of fucking around, he gives out that he knows she stole
Yeah.
his identity. And the
Well, so-
minute he does that, she clicks and goes, I'm in fucking danger. And she tries to get away from him. And she's like, let me go. She claws into his hand. She starts resisting him. That's when he bites her lip, sticks her head in the water, and continues to fuck her. He is thinking in his head, and I think he even talks about it, like he wants to punish her. This is not
Yeah.
just a sex act.
Yeah.
He is using sex as
yeah.
a punishment.
Absolutely.
And it's all about him.
It's a power thing,
It's
too.
a power
Uh-huh.
thing. And yes, this is fantasy. So this is a safe way for people who this is their thing
Sure.
to enjoy it. But also like, woof, this one's hard for me. Still a fantasy. So it was rough to read.
Yeah.
It was real rough.
crazy.
So let me ask both of you. If you were reading this book at your leisure
Mm-hmm.
because I had recommended it to you and you had gotten to that part, would you have stopped? Would you DNF this book once you hit that
I
point?
would have texted you a little bit more aggressively and been like, yo, what the fuck?
I think it would have depended how the book was framed to me. So if I was given this book by somebody who was like, this is a dark thriller, and the intent was dark thriller, I probably would have kept going with it. Because the lean of our podcast and the books we're reading is for it to be sexy. And so most of the time when we're reading these books, I'm looking at it from the aspect of, is this hot? Is this hot for me? Is this hot for other people? I probably would have DNF'd it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty extreme kink for my tastes
Right.
personally. He never got into the realm of safe BDSM for me that
Mhm.
made me feel comfortable with the way
Mhm.
he was
But
fucking
this
her.
was not BDSM.
No.
This was not BDSM.
No.
This was dominance.
Yeah.
This was full on. This was not safe. We're not scening together. This was control of her. This is a completely
correct.
different ball of wax
Yep.
than being in a BDSM relationship.
Yeah.
And I think
Okay.
that's where it got hard for me. To me, there's a difference between a scene and then it being real.
Yeah. No, this is not that. This is not that safe environment. It is for some people.
Yeah.
And I think, Birdie, you outlined it really well. This is somebody's yum. It is not my yum. It is part of the book. I try to pull out that information. Would I have DNF'd this? No. But there's so many other components to this book that I thoroughly enjoy, that those things I realize are for some people. They're just not for me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not saying anybody's
No, not at all.
bad
Not
for
at all.
being into it.
no.
And if I
It's
were to
fine.
recommend a book like this to somebody, I would be fully transparent
Yeah.
about
Right.
what's in this book. Just knowing that you may not know about somebody's trauma because they
Yes.
haven't told you, and they may have it.
Here's the line that fully put me over the edge of being so confused by the dynamic, because I was just expecting at any moment for it to get better and for him to not be so cruel and dominating in a really negative way. He says to her, "Your smile is only pretty because of those teeth. I'd hate to see them missing." What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah.
That line, I had to pause at that moment because I was like, okay, hold on. I need to reset my brain because I keep flipping the story to be the story that's comfortable in my brain. I keep rewriting it as I read it to
Mhm.
be cozy BDSM. This is not
No.
that story.
No.
And so it was very interesting to me to get to that point and to be like, you need to change the way you are reading this
Mhm.
book. I still couldn't, even to the very end of it. It was so hard for me to read it and be fully in the mindset because I kept going, bam, 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 no, no, no. And my brain did not allow it for the entire book. And that would be the reason that I might not have DNF'd it, because I've never felt that way about anything. I've never read anything like this before.
Mm.
Also, I do enjoy squirting things. So not that I'm saying I'm squirting on them. I think squirting is fun.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that element of it. And I'm like, oh, so let's read some more about that. And the story was great. I thought it was a fun story. I wasn't expecting it to go the way that it did. It goes from being on the boat and getting almost murder fucked, and then they're shipwrecked.
Because Enzo did not look at the weather report. Here's
Yeah.
a man who owns a boat who did the dumbest thing because he wanted revenge on her.
Yeah. Letting that rage focus him or not focus him.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you said about mindset. So once I changed my mindset to this is just a dark thriller, that's how I could get through the rest of the book. And I wasn't texting you guys like I'm vetoing,
Right.
because it is a fascinating story. I mean, there's a whole psychology piece to this about people who stay with their abusers because it's familiar, because they think they deserve it, because they've been abused in another situation, and then they think that's all they deserve.
Right.
But is that what you heard in the narrative of this book?
I think that's part of the motivation why she stays with him. And at the same time, I don't think that's really the complete angle that the author is taking. I think she's very much going with there's a teacup for every saucer.
Mm.
And that these two individuals are made for each other because, I mean, let's face it, they're both damaged.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they each kind of work together in a way that works for them. It's one of those things where I look at people and go, I'm so glad they're together because it takes them out of the dating pool and nobody else has to deal with their shit. But I think the way this story is leaning is that they're made for each other, that they fulfill each other, that they're going to help each other heal in a way that works for them. And it's hard for me to like turn off my own, experience in therapy and things like that. And not bring that into this book because that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
I did very much enjoy the moment where it was a turning point where he says, okay, tell me a lie, tell me a truth. And he asks her to tell him different things. And he's looking at her and he says, okay, now say another lie.
Yeah, he gets her tells.
See. And so he's getting her tells so that he can know if she's lying to him or not. And she decides from that moment onwards that she doesn't want to lie to him anymore.
No.
And that was a really great turning point, which also led to a really interesting sex scene later with some mutual masturbation where they're lying to each other. And she's like, I fucking hate you.
Yeah.
As one of the lies. And he's like,
that was a great piece of writing.
Baby.
Yeah.
That was a hot scene. A lot of the other sex scenes were not steamy for me because they were a little too heavy with the dominating, forced, kind of seemingly non-consensual pain. And I get it. She did keep going back for it. So like, yes, in a way it was consensual. But when does no mean no? I don't know. That's what really confused me, where she would just keep being like, Enzo, stop. And he was just like, no. And there's one thing where you can have the conversation and be like, no is not the safe word. There's a reason there's a safe word. It's because sometimes when people say no, it's hot. That's a conversation.
Yeah.
But they never had that conversation. And that's where it started to just drive me crazy.
They go through a storm and they get shipwrecked on this teeny tiny little island, and basically Sawyer saves Enzo's life.
Mm-hmm.
He gets hit on the head as they go off the boat. She gets him onto the shore. He doesn't know. But they wake up and they see this lighthouse and they're like, okay, well, we're going to go in. And they go in the lighthouse and find out somebody lives there.
Mm.
And they meet Sylvester.
Syl. She calls him Syl.
I know. Probably the most interesting character in this entire book.
Interesting is one word. So they do find out that they're basically kidnapped at that point, though.
Yeah.
By Sylvester.
Yeah.
He's rationing food, even though they do find that he has plenty. He's locking them in the bedroom at night. The windows are nailed shut.
Because there's quote unquote no radio that works. We have to wait till the supply ship comes through.
So they determined that they had 26 days or something by the time they arrived, because he
Right.
had said it had just come a few days before.
A few days before. They didn't have any batteries for his radio, so they can't call for help. Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit.
And it's the three of them. There's no one else on this fucking island.
So the funny thing is that I didn't actually go and Google islands off the coast of Australia, but the thing is that in my head, I always kept envisioning it as a fucking Caribbean island with a palm tree. And then she would talk about how the water was freezing. And I'm like, oh, because they're actually almost in the Antarctic Circle. So the water's fucking cold where they are. It's not actually warm and cute.
Yeah, they need the shelter.
Yeah, they're not having a Caribbean island vacation. They are surviving on a rock in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I was actually picturing the movie The Lighthouse
Yes, me too.
in the black and white
Absolutely.
Willem Dafoe movie.
Yeah. If you haven't seen that and you're into dark, go watch that.
It's perfect.
Yep.
So they're stuck there. There's no getting off this island, and they're gonna kind of have to play nice with Syl, aren't they?
They have to. They have no other choice.
Are you telling me that at some point they couldn't have snuck up on the old one-legged man
Yeah, I know.
I know.
when he's napping?
Well, they did do some sneaking around the old man while he was napping.
Fucking in the closet. How about you tie the old guy up to his bed or something and then go search for the fucking batteries?
But Lex, then we wouldn't have a book.
Okay.
But
All right.
not only that, these are not people with ill intention. I think they're very happy that they have the opportunity to live. Enzo calls him a stronzo, I think 85,000 times within the book.
Can you translate for me? What is stronzo?
Asshole.
Ah, okay.
But he calls him an asshole. He doesn't like him. The two of them do not get along. But Sawyer and Sylvester, she's playing nice. She is very thankful for his hospitality. But weird shit starts to happen within the second night of them being there.
The chains.
Yeah.
Chains dragging around.
Very
totally a ghost.
Marley. Yeah.
Yeah, Marley chains and shit. And
Yeah.
there's some fucking ghost story woven. And then there's a girl out in the water crying. That's when I was just like, what the fuck is this book? What is this book?
Yeah.
That's when I really was just like, hold on. We've already gone from crazy fucking murder sex to sharks to shipwrecks to creepy man to now we're having ghosts. Like, what the fuck?
Enzo is mad this entire time. And now he is stuck with her indefinitely.
Yeah. That was pretty rough.
And all he wants to do is punish her. He is angry that he's been betrayed by this woman. Firmly, my belief is that his anger was fueled by how much he wanted her. He kept getting angrier and angrier because she did bad things to him and he still wanted her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was mad at himself.
Yeah. But they continue to touch and fuck each other. What was going through your mind as that was going through the book? Did you understand it?
No, that's the whole point. So that actually brings me to one of the things that I was thinking about a lot during this book and kind of chuckling about, which is I actually wish that I could have angry sex. I think I've had angry sex maybe once, but I wish that was a thing where it's like, you know, oh, you're so hot when you're angry kind of thing. But usually it's like whatever I'm fucking arguing about is going to take over the fact that maybe somebody looks a little cute and I'll just be like, I don't actually ever want to fucking look at you ever again.
Yeah, I'm in your corner. I'm more of a, I will fuck you up, not I will fuck you.
Yeah, like if you fucking try to touch me, I will slap you across the face.
Yeah.
But I see this as more than angry sex. This is I fucking despise you.
Right. Which is
Yes.
what makes it blow my mind even
Whole
more.
new level.
Right.
Like,
I'm not wired that way.
I'm
so
not
it's
either.
weird
I'm
to
not
me.
either.
It's here. It works in the story.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's appropriate that that's how the story's going. It works for the characters.
This is not the first story I've read that has that dynamic, so I guess it's a thing.
Oh yeah. And I think that's sort of the thing. It's like the reason why there are so many different tastes out there and so many different types of books is we're all wired differently.
But there's also the element that Enzo talked about that's not just like, I'm angry with you, I'm going to fuck you up now in a, I'm going to fuck you. Ooh. It's, oh, I wish I could have seen you in that moment when you had blood all over you because I would have fucked you so hard with that blood all over you.
Yeah.
That's a whole other element.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. We try our best to not spoil the book for you, but for us to continue with this conversation, we're going to have to let some information about the book come out right now. So if you haven't read it, stop right now, go read the book, and then proceed in the next 2 days to finish listening to the episode. They all get drunk one night. They're all doing shots for shots at the table. Sylvester's there, Enzo's there. And they really start to divulge a lot about themselves. We found out Enzo's mom left him when he was like 8 years old in the front of a church, that she'll be right back. And she never came back. And he became cold and heartless from that moment on, even though he was raised by nuns that didn't do anything. And then we find out that Sawyer actually had been sexually abused by her brother for many, many years.
Her twin brother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one believed her.
Because he was the good one.
Yeah.
He's the one everybody
Yeah.
thought was wonderful.
And he
Became
was a
a
cop,
policeman, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden, like, the lights went on for Enzo, and he's like, oh, I misjudged this woman completely. She is running away from him. She's had to do the things that she does. And I'm not sure he feels bad about it. He just redirects how his emotions go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because who would have blamed him for being actually pretty angry about having his identity stolen for something, and almost ruining his entire life? I can't blame him for being angry. The way that he responds to it is a whole
I was
other
going to
story.
say, the response I don't think is equal to
Sure.
what happened.
No, sure.
Because she didn't actually fuck up his business. And then even that would be enough.
I think it is the betrayal from a woman.
Yes. It's
that cuts so deep for him. A woman that he cannot explain why he wants as bad as he wants her.
Yeah, totally.
It's crazy. I don't get that dynamic, but these two people in the book do. He wants to make her pay for what she did to him, but nobody else can do anything wrong to her. He wants to protect her. He will be the only one to punish her for her sins. That was a little off for me.
See, that drove me crazy. And especially that he was saying it until the absolute bitter end of the book, where it's like they're super happy together and he's like, I'm going to be the only one to hurt you. And I'm like, but this isn't like a nice sounding pain.
Right.
It's hurt in a weird, fucked up way. I don't know. It was just different.
But for some reason, she was drawn to that. Sylvester's a little kooky bird, and they pretty much find out he used to have a family. He used to have 2 daughters. He used to have a wife. He's got stories about where they went, how things happen. Yeah, there's always something.
Mm-hmm.
This entire time they're there, they're looking for this mystery beacon. They're reading all these history books about the lighthouse, looking for the beacon. They're like, we need off this motherfucking island. And then all of a sudden, they look at one of the rooms and one of the bookshelves has been moved.
Classic. Oh, dumbasses. Can't believe they didn't try to move the bookshelves first.
Well, because they kept looking on the second floor for the entrance. They were now on the first floor.
Yeah.
And behind the bookshelf, they find the staircase to get to the beacon. She pulls the radio, call for help, call for help. No response. Static. Nothing. Except somebody comes up the stairs with him.
Creepy as fuck.
Creepy
I
ass.
gotta say, this book would translate so well into a fucking horror movie.
Oh,
Yeah, it really would.
absolutely.
It would
Really,
be
really well.
An awesome, super steamy horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to run you through, it's Sylvester's daughter.
One of the daughters.
One of the daughters.
Yeah.
So the first one, Trinity, did commit suicide. And this is his second daughter, Casey. And he has fucked her up.
It's so,
So the-
gnarly.
First thing they notice is the smell.
Gross.
Yeah.
She's in like an old nightgown, but it's like distinctly yellow and it's like real gnarly and dirty. And
She's got
Mhm.
chains
Yeah.
around her. And that's why they keep hearing the chains.
Mhm.
And last but not least, worst of the worst.
He sewed her mouth up.
He
Yeah.
sewed her mouth up.
So it's all rotting and infected and
Yeah.
Blech.
So fuck.
But she's weird too. So first of all, she would have scared the ever-loving fucking shit out of me if she comes up in the beacon. She's the one that opened the door for them
Yeah.
to lead them there. So you would think she's trying to help, but she's all shisty, man.
Well, what is the syndrome where you fall in love with your captor?
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm. She's Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Like unbelievable. Fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. Crazy, crazy. Sylvester comes back around. Melee ensues. Ultimately, Casey gets killed by Sylvester
Accidentally.
Mhm.
accidentally. And Enzo kills Sylvester in probably the most disturbing, coolest way you can ever motherfucking kill a person.
It's dark.
It's pretty dark. It is pretty intense. I'm not going to divulge how that happened because I think you need to read the book. And if you did read the book, your mind was probably blown because I didn't think that could happen. But it's so dark and severe.
It's very intimate. Like using a gun is not intimate. It's very easy for someone to pull a trigger because you don't feel the person. You don't feel their body.
Mhm.
It's very inanimate. It just happens.
Yeah.
And then someone's dead.
Yeah.
This is not the case, despite the fact that he's using a gun. It's not exactly how he's using it. Dark romance.
Yeah.
All the creepy people are dead.
Yes.
Creepy people dead. Enzo Sawyer alive. And believe it or not, help is coming. But Sawyer is still in trouble. And Enzo finds out she actually killed her cop brother.
Yeah. She's not just running from a rapist. She's running because she's wanted for murder, she thinks.
So they concoct a plan because Enzo found tons of graves in the basement that Sawyer is going to assume one of Sylvester's kids' lives.
It's actually a really brilliant plan.
It is a plan. They get picked up. They go to the police. Both of them are getting questioned on what happened. But I had to suspend my disbelief.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's one gigantic component that was never addressed. So they're in Australia.
Mhm.
This child supposedly was raised only at this lighthouse.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know where you're going with this.
She doesn't have a fucking Australian accent.
Oh my God, I never thought about that. You're
that
so
was
right.
the first thing that came to my mind.
Oh shit.
So yeah, not such a brilliant plan.
No,
Wow.
because they know this supposed Sawyer Bennett that's dead in the ground is American.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that, like, obviously we're in the modern era and photos of Sawyer definitely existed that
Run
could
a
have
quick
been shared.
DNA
No.
test.
So what they said is
Yeah.
the last picture that had circulated around was Sawyer at 14 years old in her goth phase. Like when she had murdered her brother and they were hunting her down.
Okay.
Disbelief is so
Yeah.
Well, I forgot that it was a photo from when she was 14.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
she had
okay.
mentioned-
So she's
yeah,
changed
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
because she's like, what, 26 at the time or something?
28.
28. Oh, right. She's 28 because
20.
the license said 29.
Right. And she's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm only 1 year younger than that.
Right.
So, you know what? In my brain, to make this work, I was just like, you know what? The cops are letting it go because they're like, this was an awful situation. It's obvious that there was a crazy man here who killed a lot of people. We're just going to wash our hands of this and not deal with it.
Yeah,
And
there's
went
Yeah.
with what they said.
Well, so one really, really, really satisfying moment in this book for me was the moment where they're getting taken in and they made up this lie that Sawyer was Trinity and the other daughter, and that Sawyer was actually a shipwrecked woman that came up, and then Trinity wanted to name herself after Sawyer. It was kind of a funny idea. It was cool. It made sense. She's like, oh, that woman that you're naming yourself after? Gosh, turns out she must have done the world a favor because that guy, after he died, all these other women came out and said that he was raping them too.
Yep.
So that was the first time she's heard about that. And for me, I was like, yes. So I had that moment with them and I was very much like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Vindication.
Mhm.
I can't even imagine. Like, that's where actually the disbelief kind of ended for me because I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. If I were her and I heard that, I would have broken down and started sobbing.
Yes.
And it would have been uncontrollable
Yep.
scream sobbing.
Yeah.
And it may have raised some
Yeah.
eyebrows at that point in time, given the story they were trying to tell. Like, there's no way she could have sat there and fucking straight-faced heard that information and just taken it and gone away.
Yeah.
So,
And it was just a blip in the storyline. It was no conversation had with Enzo after she found out about the information. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. The stories have been out. I'm going to Google on a computer or anything like that. It was just a blip for something that probably should have been a gigantic celebration.
Which also makes it like if she hadn't done that whole thing, if she'd just been like, okay, I'm going to face up to things, and then it would have come out because it already was established that it was shown that he was a bad man.
Yeah. Yeah.
She could have gotten self-defense. She could have kept her life.
so this has been a lot.
Let me take another sip of my drink.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
We're going to do some deep breaths. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt a little bit during this book. So, a little bit of a breather here. Why don't we just...
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's time for Dishing with the Dames, folks.
I want to get you one of those old-timey microphones. You know, like the
Yes,
silver ones
please.
with the thing.
Yes, please. That sounds great. So, the question of the day is, given the content of this book, I'm really thinking about this a lot right now. Have you ever cried during sex? It's a thing for some
Ooh.
people.
Oh.
It's a thing.
So, qualifying question.
Ooh.
Crying in pain or crying in emotional release?
Personally, the way I took it is any way that ends up in tears.
If
Tear ducts have been engaged?
right,
Okay.
right.
okay. Yeah, Lex, I think you already have an answer ready to go.
Why do you always think I do? I mean, I do.
Yeah, you see, I know you, woman.
I mean, okay, so if we're going with the definition, tear ducts engaged. So, you know, if you're giving oral and
Sure. Right.
sometimes it's really down there and breathing's hard and,
Yeah.
you know, gag reflex is not happening. There's tears that way. Also, I'm happy to report that sometimes the tears are engaged when you have a really fucking good orgasm.
Yeah, that's what I was
Like-
going to say.
Seeing the universe, woohoo. Obviously, that's not related to this book, but
Right.
you're just asking about personal experience.
We're just talking. We're dishing. We said we were going to dish. We're going to dish.
Absolutely. So crying in the very best way.
Yeah.
Actually, in both of those examples, fine.
And I think that the first example is like probably a whole Rule 34 situation. If it exists, there's a porno of it. And I...
Thank you, Google. I always get the rules mixed up, all right?
I just feel like that one in particular is a whole thing, and people really enjoy the tears in that moment. People with the penises, they enjoy. They just love it. It puts them right over the edge. Yeah.
So, I have had amazing orgasms. Never one that has brought me to tears.
There's still time.
But yes, they're done. It's on my bucket list, I guess. But, of course, if you have at all gotten to know me in the hours that you've had to listen, and the two of you have known me for many, many years combined, things happen during sex that sometimes make you laugh so loud it brings you to tears.
That's good.
That is the only time where I can probably markedly say that tears have run it down my face because something absolutely weird or funky or funny has happened when you are having an intimate moment
Wait, was
with
it-
someone.
Was it elephant underwear?
No, that wasn't even it. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing.
All right.
Once we turn off,
Yeah.
I'm going
Oh, I
to
will
refill your
so
glass
tell you.
and tell me.
Yeah. Some of it may actually correspond to some of the things we talked about within this book.
There are so many raised eyebrows in this room, folks. We're going to
So
need
good.
a lot more information
Yeah.
after the red light turns off.
Yep.
And I'm usually very open. I think I have shared a lot. That is just kind of the line. If you ever figure out who I am and you see me in public, I will have no problem telling you this story. So hunt me down, listeners, and be prepared.
I'm also withholding one element that I could have talked about here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it
Yeah.
on the public airwaves, but
Yeah.
I'll talk about it when the red light turns off.
So
All
what
right.
about you, Birdie? Cry during sex.
It's been mostly just when the orgasm hits the point where you're like, maybe you've already come 4 times and you've gotten to the point where you're just like, I can't feel in any other way in my body
Mhm.
or through my vocal cords in any possible way. And it just gets to the point where you're like, I need another outlet for the way that I'm
Mm.
feeling, and it has to just come out of my eyeballs.
I think that's an excellent description. That's
It's
what it
when
is.
you just feel like you're going to explode because you can't possibly get the feeling to go through your body in the way that feels like you're going to be satisfied. And that's where it ends up.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
Nothing left but tears.
Note to self, unlock that achievement in life.
I will, yeah, I will say there's a very interesting thing that made that happen. I will tell you, if you've ever considered trying the Flex Cup or the Diva Cup so that you can have sex while you're on your period, guess what else that cup does? Just feels real great while it's in there. Okay?
Oh.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Tears.
Well,
Okay. I wasn't expecting that at all. Somebody had said that to me and I was like, oh, let's try it out. And my partner was like, whoa, hold on. Wait, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Well, this feels a little weird. What's happening in there? Like, is something wrong? And I was like, don't worry about it.
Everything's right.
And he was like, okay. Okay. I had to explain to him. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, then we're carrying on now.
yes. As long as there's nothing wrong happening down there.
He really thought that something was
Yeah,
like
yes, like,
absolutely wrong.
What is that?
And I was like, oh, surprise. Yeah. That's my fun hot tip, folks.
Yeah.
Try it out. See for yourselves. See if it works for you. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Where's my notebook? I need to start writing this shit down.
Now we've really dished, okay? And
Yeah.
that's not even the piece of information that I was
No.
withholding.
No.
It's
Just
good
FYI.
stuff.
So, yeah.
Thanks for
So-
sharing.
I think we've really gotten to the point where this is probably going to be our most varied ratings we have ever had.
Yeah.
Since starting this podcast. I think this is kind of going to be all over the place for us, and it's really going to be interesting. So are we ready to go and rate this?
100%.
Ready.
Okay. Since everybody and their mother, or birdie as I like to say, likes to start with smut, I'm going to start with smut. So you can rate this book anywhere from 1 to 5 gushing raindrops. And because Birdie likes the smut, I'm going to start with you. Birdie, what are you rating this?
Because I like the smut. Well, I am truly compelled to give it a 5. There were lots of occasions to have steamy moments. There were various methods and things and locations. Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot of very interesting smutty moments in this book. Was it all my yum? No. But was it smutty? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, there we go.
Yeah.
It's a full 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lex.
So it's funny because like my reasoning is very close to Birdie's, but with a completely different number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tons of smut in this book. I have to acknowledge there's smut. Like it's just filled and it happens pretty much right off the bat and just is there all the way. As you said, locations, different positions, different kinds of things, mutual masturbation, like it's all there. So you're looking for smut, it's here. The thing is, it is so not my smut that it's so hard for me to rate it as a high number because it's my personal experience.
Mhm.
And when things go up on the social medias and it's like, hey, here's Lex's rating, I have a hard time putting a high number on it because it's the kind of smut it is. Also, though, like, I'm glad it's out there because the folks who enjoy this kind of thing, I want them to have this kind of smut. I would rather have them have this book and get real friendly with their own fingers and hands because it's a safe place for them to engage with this kind of fantasy because there is a vast difference between this kind of fantasy and real world experience. So please, God Almighty, enjoy your smut in a book for this kind of thing. So I'm going to rate it kind of high, even though it's not my kind of thing. So I'm going to go for the 3.5 because if I was rating it on my personal experience, it'd be like in the negatives.
Yeah.
However, I understand it's not always about me. You know?
Right.
No, but I think that
And
was awesome.
I want folks to have a safe place to experience this if that's what gets them off.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the best thing about this whole podcast and what we read. It's a safe space for us to engage in what gets us hot without being physically in danger.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with 3.5. So listeners, be safe and enjoy.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to go with a 5 for sort of both the reasons that the two of you gave. Is this my kind of smut that I do in my personal life? No. Does it turn me on? Maybe a little bit with some components taken out of it. What really got to me is the intensity. The way HD wrote these scenes between the two of them and the intensity that came through and the lust and the connection, that turned me on, even if what they were doing wasn't turning me on. And that's what makes this a really strong 5 for me. Something very different. We're going to move to Le Romance. You can give this anywhere from 1 to 5 fucking roses. Okay. Starting off with Lex this time first.
Okay, I mean, this is not going to be a surprise if you've been listening to this whole podcast and listening to me talk. I'm sorry, I'm rating the romance at a 1. To me, it's not romantic. There's smut. It's hot for some folks, but like, to me, this is not romantic. This is very much like a dependent relationship. So it is just a solid 1 rose. Sorry.
I'm going to give it a 1.5. that half a point is for Senile Susie at the end. When
Oh, yeah.
he got the van that she really loved delivered to the house magically. So when she woke up, it was just there. It was very warm and fuzzy. That was very sweet. You know, he could have used his first phone call to his best friend to tell him that he wasn't dead to, you know, do a lot of things.
But go get the van.
But
Bert.
instead, it was just, please go get the van. Thanks. So that was very cute. But I do agree with you, Lex. It was very difficult because the relationship was much more dominant in a way that I didn't necessarily wholeheartedly get on board with. But there were some very sweet moments. There were. So, yeah, 1.5.
I'm going with a 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You two are giving me side eye like you wouldn't
No.
believe.
I'm just
No.
listening.
Is this the type of romance that I dig? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Is this the type of man I would entertain for more than 4? Okay, maybe 1 full night. Absolutely not. He is not my cup of tea, but he was Sawyer's cup of tea. And the two of them did something for each other. All right, let's move on to plot, storyline. You can give this anywhere from 1 to 5 storybooks. All right, we're starting with Birdie.
I think I have to give it a 5. I had a lot of moments where I went, oh shit. And da-da-da-da-da-da. Guess what? It's because I didn't read the fucking back of the book. So I was shocked at every turn. Every turn. It was fun. There was lots of suspense and surprises and happy moments and twists. And maybe I do completely shut my brain off sometimes. So I may not even be critically thinking about things enough to foresee some turns.
But that's the great thing about entertainment.
Right.
Is an escape.
I did. I completely shut my brain off for this book. So was I surprised when we found out that she actually killed her brother? Yes. I was like, oh shit. Wow, I should have seen that coming. And I knew that I should have seen that coming, but I didn't. So there was lots of moments. I thought the story was super fun. It was clever. I've never read anything like it before, and it was entertaining.
Lex.
I'm giving it a 4.5.
Wow.
So, to my friends who like horror, suspense, thriller, I would 100% recommend this book because of the story and the way it's written. And I think it's a fantastic suspense thriller. So, I got to give props where it's due. We're talking about plot. I thought the plot was excellent the way it was laid out. It's fun. It kind of reminded me of sort of classic old thrillers like The Turning of the Screw.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just like, V.C. Andrews and Stephen King with a lot of really heavy sex.
I went with a 4. I thought the storyline and plot were so well developed. You were left wondering what was happening. Even if you kind of sort of saw things that were coming, I don't think they flushed out in your head in the same manner they did in the book. And it left you on the edge of your seat a lot of the time. And it was super, super entertaining. So agree with you both. All right, here we go. Overall rating, you can give this anywhere from 1 to 5 eggplants. How did you feel about this book? Lex, starting with you.
Very solid 3. We've had some great conversation about it. I mean, it's been fun to talk about. Very, very solid book. So yeah, totally a 3.
I'm at the same point with you, Lex. I would not have been able to read this book by myself without other people to talk to about it immediately at all times. There were so many moments where I was just like, whether it was just shock or like, wait a minute, am I the only person that feels this way? Or hold on, or, oh, that was interesting. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. I do think it's a very particular recommendation.
Yes.
I don't actually know a lot of people who are in this genre personally. So it's a very specific recommend. But is it interesting? Absolutely. So
Thanks for suggesting it, because I wouldn't have ventured over this way on my own.
Yeah. I'm actually going with a 4. I love dark romance. I have a really good solid grasp on who I am, and I can very well distinguish between what someone writes as a story and puts out there to be a story, and then what my real life looks like. So when I put myself in the pages of a book, to me, it's a story. And I'm extrapolating all the feels and the emotions that are happening. Did I agree with everything in there? Was a lot of it hot for me? No. But this story was so well crafted. And I've told you before, I picked this book because I have read a previous series from H.D. Carlton. And again, there were things in that book that I did not find hot. But the writing style, the emotion, the intensity, the way the story weaved its way through, like it was a ride. Is it everybody's ride, or are some people going to get off and throw up? That may happen.
yeah. That's actually a really fucking good analogy for this book.
Yes.
That is a perfect
Yeah.
analogy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know dark romance is not for everyone, and we are usually joking and laughing. And this episode may have taken a more serious tone. This book was pretty serious and intense.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you coming on for the ride. Hopefully your breakfast is still in your belly, or lunch, or that popcorn snack that you just had before you hit play on this episode. But on a serious note, we wholeheartedly want to take a moment to thank you for press and playing our content, which is truly a labor of love. But your work doesn't stop here. You too can make the difference in the lives of 3 dirty dames and save them from the mundane 9 to 5. Your support will let the dames continue to read smutty books, day drink, and help all of their dreams come true. For a mere 4 or 5-star written review on Apple Podcast or Spotify Podcast, you can alert the powerful algorithm that this is content everybody needs to hear. We understand this is a big ask, and if you are only able to give a 3-star review, please stop. Consume a minimum of 2, but no more than 5 adult beverages. Then grab your phone and write us a review. We thank you for your support and look forward to bringing you more fun, sassy content for many, many days to come. Thank you for listening. Please rate us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Follow us at the Lusty Library Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and visit us at the lustylibrarypodcast.com. We will see you next time.